Hello, everyone out there in Book Marketing Pro Academy land and really the entire internet, because I think this is viewable by the entire internet. So welcome to is this our third live coaching call? And I think this is called At the Table, which I think I butchered that. Did I butcher that, Sarah? I think I did.
With what? At the table?
Is that what it's called? I think it is.
Well, we already said that we're both going to be hot messes today. And so I think that's what it's called. We're going to own it.
Hot messes at the table. This is where we are, and you're welcome. Please enjoy. Our show has now begun. I have the privilege and honor, even though I've already said her name. Sara Hu is amazing. And I have to say, her book, Courageous Trust, I had the privilege and the profound honor to endorse it. And as beautiful as her words are, her heart is even more so. And for those who will get to read her words, they are in for a treat. And I know it will change lives. So today, Sara Hu, you get to tell us about your book, baby, Courageous Trust. Tell us a little bit about why you wrote it and how you see it being used moving forward.
Sure. Well, I like to say that Courageous Trust is a book for anyone who's ever said, I can't, when what they really mean is I'm afraid. Because that's exactly the place that I was in. It felt like everything that I thought about doing or tried to do, I was afraid. And I knew God was asking me to do things, but I was afraid of them. And so Courageous Trust is for anyone who is looking for hope, to get them through some of the most difficult circumstances of their lives, and they can follow my journey as God taught me how to walk that road to trusting Him.
And you do so in such a beautiful way, because it's really written very much like a memoir, but you have at the end these beautiful reflection questions. So again, that kind of, it's like you're taking them gently by the hand and leading them through your journey, just to say you're not alone. And that is definitely the feel that I got when I read it. And I think is also a beautiful way to approach a memoir. How do you feel, just kind of jumping into this whole launch process? What do you feel challenged by in marketing a memoir?
Well, all of it. Let's just get that out there. All of it. But to be specific, I would say it's how much to tell. Like not tell, but how much do I say in any of my online posts as far as my own personal journey, and how much am I not teaching, but you know what I'm saying, guiding.
Yep.
I think I've learned a pretty good little sort of halfway mark, but there's always room for better. And I know I can definitely get better.
We all can. And that, I think, is the beautiful part about this journey, is that we're never going to master it. Like there's always something, a way, just like our faith, we're never going to be arrived. And there's always room for growth and learning, and you have that heart. So I think that goes hand in hand with what will be a successful launch. But I think the thing that sometimes with a memoir, especially launching a memoir, is where do I go from my story to putting it in the hands of the people that need it? And what's unique about a memoir is that there are all these life experiences that are touched on in a story that are really great places to start when it comes to marketing. So we're going to kind of go that direction a little bit here in a minute. But I also have to commend you, and anybody who is watching this call, you need to go to Sarah's social media accounts. She is already starting a beautiful engagement with the people that follow her there, as well as just by having those questions in the back of her memoir, she's already made it more marketable because it's a different way to use it than just, here's my story. It thought of that ahead of time. And whether you meant to do that or not, you did it. And you're already a step ahead. So I know we talked about that this is an overwhelming process, but usually when we step back, we can see that God was guiding us in the direction that he knew we needed to go. And I think that's evidence of your sensitivity to his prompting and just knowing that that was going to be an important piece. So what I would like you to do, could you identify for us some of the life circumstances and events that you cover in Courageous Trust that a reader might say, oh, I identify with that, or a specific buying audience might say, oh, I identify with that?
Yeah. So 4 that come to the top of my head, 5, is miscarriage, assault, my walking with my teen son through major addiction, my daughter having reconstructive surgery, so worrying about my children, and financial hardships because we are a single income entrepreneur family. So we have definitely experienced highs and lows of finances. So those are a few.
Which are such universal topics, but also very narrow ones as well. And I think when we get to this point of our journey, as far as we're looking at our pre-launch and our launch and our post-launch, like even the part of, oh my gosh, I have to continue engaging with my audience. I thought all I had to do was launch and birth the baby. Are you telling me I have to take care of it? Take care of it as well. That is a place where you can really find sustained and new engagement that we'll talk about specific things pre-launch, during launch, and post-launch that you can do. But I think even just being able to identify those 5 themes of your story opens doors that most people, when they think about writing a memoir, they're not really looking at how can I market the phases of my life that I include in that memoir. So what I would encourage you with is that you have so many places that you can go with this story, and God will use it in so many ways. And if he doesn't use it during your pre-launch, and if he doesn't use it during the launch, he has the rest of your lifetime to do that and so many doors to open. So we had talked just a little bit before this call about kind of identifying pre-launch, launch, and post-launch actions, just one action. So do you realize you're already further ahead than you think you are?
No. I was saying to Sarah beforehand that I feel like I'm really behind.
And it's because we see all of these book launch things like all over the place. It is like saturation, and it is not terribly encouraging when you're trying to just keep your eyes not on the overwhelm part. It's like, oh, I could be doing that when I could be doing that. But you've already taken a pre-launch action because you started to engage in social media more. And I saw that almost immediately, and I've loved your posts. So you really already have taken one step in action that pre-launches your book because you're engaging with that audience. Let's identify another one for you that keys into this idea of these different elements that are a part of your book. What really comes first in your story, would you say?
Well, I think the first major thing that comes first is assault.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some little things that kind of lead up to that, but they're leading up to that.
Okay. So of of the themes that are in your book, do you feel like that's a good place to start where you want to be, or
I
do
don't
you,
think that's exactly where I want to start. It's not really the audience, and it's not really the message I'm trying to create.
okay.
Yeah.
Who of that kind of thematic or experience driven group do you feel most connected to then?
The moms,
The
for
moms.
sure. Yeah. The I feel really connected to moms. I get so many questions. If I have to look back and think about all the times that I've spoken at marriage conferences or spoken, at other things, the most questions I get from people are actually about parenting. And how did you walk through that season? How did you get through that? What do you do with? I just had a text yesterday. Hey, do you have something we can use for parenting? So
Well, and you
definitely,
have such a great, I mean, you're a grandma now.
I
You've
am a
been
grandma now.
through,
Can't believe it.
you've
I love it.
you are a young and stylish grandmother. So
Thank
I
you.
hope to be the same. Probably not stylish, but hopefully fun.
You're
So
both. You're all of it.
thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sarah. I do think that that is something, again, there is not a journey, even like we were talking about before, where we feel like you're always kind of in this place of failure of not knowing what the hoot you're doing. And
Yes.
I think that trusting God with our kids,
Hmm.
that's one of the hardest places we can be.
Yeah.
So keying into that audience pre-launch, what are
Okay.
some, let's talk about on the ground places. So organic reach, whether that's ministries, churches, organizations, what do you have on the ground? And we're not, you can brainstorm later. Let's just pick
Hmm.
one. Let's find one
Okay.
that you can start looking at as possibly either doing some drip marketing pre-launch and then
Hmm.
partnering with them along the way, all three phases, because you don't have to, oh, first I'm going to focus on the moms during the pre-launch, then I'm going to focus on people who are going through financial hardship during the launch. No, keeping
Hmm.
that consistent pulse and one where you feel the most called to is going to
Hmm.
allow you to deepen that as you move forward. So identifying that
Okay.
parenthood is where you feel your heart is presently was a big step just to identify right
Hmm.
now. So,
Yeah,
okay.
it's really those moms who kind of feel stuck. Because part of my story was I knew I was called to more, but I was also called to mothering and being afraid to say yes to God for the next steps. For both my kids, for giving him my kids, for um, trusting him with my children, but also trusting him with the call of motherhood, but the call outside of motherhood.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the ground, where would you say you have physical places that you could go to that would provide you a buying audience? And that sounds so, again, I know it's weird when we're talking about marketing. Oh, I'm going to find my buyers. No, you're really going to
Mhm.
connect with the people who will benefit from your book, but that also happens to be your buyer as well.
Right.
Where would be a place that you would feel like, okay, this is a reasonable small first step that I can take to engage moms with my content right now?
Mhm. Well, there's two that come to mind. Is one is just different Facebook groups, and another one is in person, just mom meet and greets. Mhm.
Now, are the mom meet and greets, is that kind of like mops in Canada?
Sort of, yeah, but they happen at churches, they happen at other things, and I've gone to them before just because I enjoy connecting with the moms. Like and then I'm actually part of a small group that's for moms of all ages. That's what our small group is, which I really enjoy. Mhm.
Is there a way even to just engage with that small group pre-launch
Mhm.
and
I'm sure
start
there is.
a small study, because we've kind of talked about how a lot of times we look at the big steps, but it's the really tiny steps that lay the
Mhm.
foundation. And that would give
Mhm.
you the ability, even if you're like, hey, would you guys read my book with me and just tell me what you think? Tell me how it
Mhm.
resonates. It gives you really specific education on the
Mhm.
people as to the people that you're serving. And it once you go bigger and you're looking at multiple small groups over multiple churches, multiple organizations, you already have that groundwork, that research, and it allows you to
Mhm.
interact with the content in the way that you haven't been able to. So,
That's
asking
great.
those questions. The other thing
Mhm.
I would say too is I think for you, a Facebook group that invites moms to go through your book and go through those questions, you would have to decide, and this is where I would really encourage you. You would need to look at your life and decide
Mhm.
whether that is a pre launch activity or that's a post launch activity or it's a during launch
Mhm.
activity. But I think that's
Yeah.
when, again, both of those situations, you are actively engaging with moms about the issues that they're struggling with the most and that broader need that you're meeting, that hey, this is a hard journey. It doesn't matter if they're babies or they're 85. Our
Mhm.
babies, it's hard to trust God with our babies, and I don't think that
Yeah.
ever goes away. Okay,
It
so
doesn't. And I love that idea, by the way. I've had an idea percolating for a little while for even a title of one. I'm not going to say it right now, but
ooh,
um, something specific for moms. And so you saying that is more confirmation for me that yeah, okay,
yeah. Yeah, and
step into that.
you'll enjoy it. That's the other thing is I said yesterday, you don't want it to be the plan is not meant to be a noose around your neck. It's meant to be a
Hmm.
tool so that you can succeed in this. And so doing the things that excite us rather than make us want to cry, that's
Hmm.
always a good yes. So kind of keep that in mind as you're going along. Now, what could you do since you're already engaging in social media? If you're looking at potentially starting like a pre-study, if you will, with a small group and starting a Facebook group, what could you do on social media that would hone in on the motherhood journey and trusting God in the middle of motherhood?
I think just focusing my posts, excuse me, focusing my posts more towards moms
Hmm.
would
Hmm.
be good because right now they're more general.
Hmm. Yep.
And so I think focusing towards that is a good start.
And I think the
Hmm.
fact that you've already started there, again, it's another easy baby step that's not overwhelming. It just hones in on your target audience, on your buyer a little bit more pointedly. Okay, so
Okay.
we've talked about that would be, and honestly, Sarah, that's a lot right there.
Okay.
That is a lot. Um, Anybody who is watching this, if you are doing much more than that as you're starting out with your launch plan, you're going to get overwhelmed. But if you slow down and work smart, you're still working hard, and that's okay. You can work
Hmm.
hard, but you should also work in a way that brings that overwhelm down because we all have multiple plates that we're carrying. So, if that is the theme for our pre-launch, what could we do for you during the middle of the launch? And I think this is an idea that you had already plugged into, keyed into, that can really generate that buzz and increase sales, but not make you want to cry. And
Hmm.
maybe it does make you want to cry. And maybe I shouldn't have.
No, you mean? Do you mean the Facebook group? Is that what you're talking about?
I
The for
think
moms?
the Facebook group would be like that ongoing piece,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
what specific, and I mentioned it in the training yesterday. I'll give you a hint.
Okay. I just listened to it. Yeah, give me a hint because I just listened to your training and now it's like out the.
Janet McHenry, Christine
Oh,
Trent.
yeah. You said that they're really brilliant at marketing themselves uh, through collaboration. Is that right?
Podcasts, yes, and
Podcasts,
podcasts.
yes. Yeah.
And I know you've already kind of been thinking about that and taking baby steps. Let's
Mhm.
bring it down just a little bit and make it more manageable. Let's
Mhm.
start focusing on scheduling those during the launch. Focus on moms. See what you can do to find podcasts that focus on motherhood, because again, that keeps your focus narrow, which will reduce your overwhelm. And if you feel that's where God is really calling you to use the message of your book now, you can always
Mhm.
broaden that base later, but this will keep you focused and honed in and consistent. It also keeps your brain, I think, from having to jump to multiple places and multiple areas. The
Which
other
is good for my brain. Yeah.
it's good.
Okay.
It's good for all of our brains. It
Yeah.
really is to be bouncing around. We want to keep consistency also in our approach as well, because that reduces that overwhelm. The other type of podcast I would maybe encourage you to look into is one that is story centered and story focused. You are a fantastic storyteller. And whether that is focusing on one of the stories in an individual chapter, and that's probably something that you can do even on the Mama podcasts, is really highlight a story per chapter. That's what I've done with Even When. It
Mhm.
pulls that content out, but it's also a story you've already told. So kind of look for those as well. If you come across
Okay.
them, don't if you can't find them, it's okay. But I would
Okay.
think that your content would definitely lend to that as well.
Okay.
I'm going to throw out one more idea during the launch. And if you're like,
Okay.
Sarah, I want to cry, you can say, let's stop and we can dance again like we were to the intro music. We can take a
Yeah,
little
perfect.
decompress dancing. Carol and Athena and Shelly are probably like, oh, wow.
Oh
No,
no, but we're having a party over here. That's what we're
we
doing.
are. We are.
Yeah.
So, are you ready for another idea? You're like, okay,
Yep.
okay.
Bring it
All
on.
right, here
Let's
we go.
go.
All right. Because you are a beautiful storyteller and your chapters are so beautifully written, consider doing readings at venues. I have a friend who she's a fiction writer, and I think typically it lends itself more to fiction unless it's a memoir and is written as beautifully as yours is. I think you could create an event at a library, or even make that part of seeing what type of book clubs are available either online or offline. And this can also be something you do post launch as well. This could be a next phase idea where you go visit and you do a reading, whether that's in person or online. And then these sweet little folks are able to ask you questions, and it may even give you insight into other areas and other places where you can go with your book. Because again, it's that organic reach. The more people that you connect with, and I would say if you can do more online, that will feel more doable to you, especially since you speak quite a bit. I think you speak
Mhm.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I think the more you can do online will help, especially in that initial, oh my goodness, this is so much. So,
Okay. Perfect.
so how does that feel?
It feels great. It feels great. And then on top of that, I also have signed up with the ABC
Which is
book
fantastic.
launch as well.
It
So,
is fantastic. And they give
mhm,
you, not to be plugging the service, but I'm going to, as a
mhm,
project manager, it is the one service I recommended for every single author. It
mhm,
is low energy, high impact, which we need during our book launch, as
mhm.
I mean, overwhelm is real. So I think that will also take a deep breath, because you're doing that. You're not going to have to focus as much on pushing those reviews and all the things as if you were doing it alone. So I think that is
Okay.
something that really will be an amazing piece of your launch. All right, post
Perfect.
launch. Now, put your pen down.
Okay.
Now I want you just to dream a bit,
Okay.
because I think it's always important when we're launching a book that we have the dreams for right now. But what about the dreams for what comes next? Because that gets
Mm.
us started, that roots in our heart, almost this persistence of, I know what I'm supposed to do now, but here's where I feel called to in the future. What is your dream
Mm.
for this book long term?
Oh gosh. I might start crying.
It's okay.
My dream for this book is to see moms' hearts just not lose hope for their wayward children, and to know that no matter what they go through, no matter what challenges come their way, it's that God has called them to so much more, and all they have to do is say yes and just take this one little baby step. Just take the first step, and the rest becomes so much easier if we just take that first step. And um, yeah, and so my dream for this would be to see moms have so much hope and courage to face whatever comes next, and to know that they're doing it with God, that He has not left them. So that's overarching. Whether that is one on one or whether that is in front of hundreds, for me, God has just called me to speak into women's lives,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with it not being mass amounts of arenas. I just want to give hope to the one. Mm-hmm.
And because you want to give hope to the one, I have no doubt that God is going to give you a chance to give hope to the many through this book. Your heart, and this is what I probably did not say very well at the beginning, your heart, Sarah, that at the end of the day is the best tool you already have to launch your book out into the world. And it will be enough, I promise. And anybody else out there that's listening to this is where our hearts have to go when we decide what we're going to do to launch our books. What is our heartbeat? Because all the rest of this, God can take care of. Our buyers aren't just buyers. They're real people. They're people that God saw fit to send Jesus for. And that would
Yeah.
stand.
You know, I wasn't going to share this, but I just feel like sometimes God even asks us to go in front of audiences that are not our usual audience. And recently I had the opportunity to go speak in front of a room full of men who's not my audience, who are all in recovery. And when I looked at all that audience, all I saw was a bunch of my sons, you know, and being able to speak into their lives from a mom's heart and know that they're not forgotten and not alone. And so I feel like sometimes God will even ask us to go to places that we never saw coming. But if we're obedient, I was asked to come back again because they said that the men's hearts really felt that mom heart. And so, just to encourage the other people out there, even if it seems weird, if you know it's from God, just step.
That's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Those small steps of obedience open incredible doors that we didn't even really know we wanted to walk through.
We didn't know we wanted to walk through. Exactly.
But I mean, hey, that's the fun part of this journey, is the unexpected. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay. Mine are smudgy, so there we go. Smudgy and foggy. Sarah and Sarah right here. Coming at you. Well, as we close, Sara, can I just pray over you and pray
Please.
over courageous trust? Thank you so much for being here today. I think
It's been an
hopefully it
honor.
gave you a little something, but I think you gave those watching that much more. So,
Mm-hmm.
Father God, I just thank you for Sara. I thank you for her heart. I thank you for her willingness to show all the bumps, the bruises, the hard places of her journey so that others don't have to feel alone.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing more beautiful than a hard story that you can take and give purpose so that someone else knows that you are right beside them every step of the way, even in their doubt, even in their fear, even in the unimaginable pain that circumstances can sometimes bring. So, Father, honor Sara's heart as she puts together all the nuts and bolts of this launch and keep her focused that whatever you call her to do will be enough today, tomorrow, and always. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I just saw a text come through from Anne that there are questions in the chat.
There are, oh my goodness, there are quite a few. This is hilarious because once again, I have created a session that was only supposed to be 20 minutes and it's probably going to be forever and ever and ever. Okay, here we go. Woo! So, Anne, we know you're here. We love you. Shelly, hello, my dear. Susan, yay. Yes, Facebook posts, and it's your posts are also on Instagram as well, right, Sara?
They're on both, yeah. I get the most engagement on Facebook.
Okay. So
Interestingly.
Susan, wherever you feel most at home, you can meet Sara there, Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, and just my name that's up there on the screen is my Facebook.
Okay, Susan asks, isn't it supposed to be a Facebook group page? I am new to pre-launch. Actually, yes, that is a great question, Susan. And if you, so Facebook groups, you're going to want to use those if you're engaging with a specific target audience. So, for instance, when we were talking about the Facebook group that Sara will possibly start for moms, that group would be where maybe she could even start posting some things pre-launch if she wants to, depending on timing. But right now, one of the things that we can all do, even if we're not starting new groups, or just have personal profiles on Instagram or Facebook, we can start posting and getting people excited, that building that anticipation just by posting on our personal accounts, because that will hopefully drive people into those groups that she's going to create later on. So hopefully that answered your question, Susan. Let's see. Could you do a reading at your in-person launch? Good suggestion, Mama.
That's a great one.
Shelly said, yep. Susan, is this book for elderly moms for an adult child who abandoned the family? So this one's for you, Sara.
Oh, wow. No, well, does take you into when my children are older, but not for mamas with children who've abandoned their family. If that I'm hearing that right, but it is for mamas of older children as well as younger. I highlight a few different time periods.
Well, and I'll say, having read the book, I think just the theme of trusting God with our kids, I think to the point that Sara so beautifully made about reaching moms who are just doubting if everything is going to be okay. And I think there's so many situations that applies to. So I can speak as a mama who I may not have had a lot of the exact situations that Sara had in her lifetime. I could identify with just that theme of, I don't know what to do with this. And I feel like my whole world is crashing down. And these babies I've loved, they're doing things or going through trials, or that I'd feel ill-equipped. And I think we
Mhm.
all have that no matter how old we are as moms. Yep. And
Perfectly said.
Anne said the same thing, but I think the principles you share could be applied. Absolutely. So see,
Mhm.
Anne agreed with me. So that says it right there.
Yeah.
If
Thanks.
Anne agrees, let it be written, let it be written.
Yeah.
I think, isn't that like the end of the let it be written, let it be done? It's the end of 10
Yes.
Commandments with Charlton Heston. There you go.
Yes.
Anne. You are Charlton Heston. And I think this is this is more
Why, thank you. Such a
and, and LOL. Yeah, I bet you didn't think you were going to hear that today on this live
no, and
coaching
thankfully
call.
I know who he is.
Oh my goodness. Well,
I'm
I
of an age.
think on that note, we are going to say farewell. Sarah, again, thank you so much for joining us. You all,
Thank
we
you.
love you, and we'll see you the next time. I'm going to put the little outro and say farewell. All right.